Work down into now. We won't spend a ton of time on it, but we're going to work a little bit of our verbal management, because essentially there's no perfect way to gear class from a distance standpoint. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to begin things at a distance where we would use verbal management. Pat is some sort of potential problem, I think, all right? So we manage verbally. As things get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, now we get down into the grappling, wrestling, weapons, and the fighting related stuff. So begin at the verbal distance here. A couple things that we want to keep in mind is that, one, I don't want to escalate situations that I don't need to escalate, regardless of whether I'm law enforcement, we're working security, or just doing normal stuff. So kind of keep that in mind. Number two is we're always going to be working from what we call a fence, or what we call like a compressed fence. So this will be something we work a lot throughout the day. Cops, you guys usually a lot of times you call it interview position, things like that, very similar. The biggest thing is that we want to have our hands up and around our head. So for the verbal component, we won't be getting into our covered position yet, but I want you guys to work on, again, my demonstration is not super great, but the whole time I'm talking, I want to have my hands up and around my face so that they're going to be usable to myself in a protection standpoint, right? So basic stuff like that. So if I've got Aaron over here, so obviously like Aaron's a cop, so just show him basic interview position, like how you would like talk to somebody, right? So now where his hands are, I would even say, I would try to get those up a little bit like higher. I want to be a little bit closer to the chin. Right? That way my hands are short distance from being able to protect my head. When it comes to people talking, all right, now I want to be more like, kind of up and around my face. So go ahead and show him good compressed ready. Right? We're talking with the hands, we're up and around the face, right? So now he's a short distance from being able to protect his head. Now, as far as the actual exact hand movements, placement stuff that you do, that's a little bit individual. I'm not a natural like hand talker. Like that's just not what my people do. So, some things to kind of do that can kind of help you is like, while you're there, is like if you want to rub your fingers like on one another, rub the back of your hand to the front of your hand as you're talking, so you got your hand up here. And then it's just like, find ways that you can kind of touch your face, or you can kind of be animated and you can point. So what did you say? So you're looking for a gas station? Yeah, I think if you go out right here, take a left, go past that U-Haul, you'll run into a kind of a Casey's down there. Does that make sense to you? Right? Is like have your hands up and around your face when you're doing that sort of stuff. Does that kind of like conceptually makes sense to everybody? So we'll help everybody work on that a little bit with exact hand placements. It's going to feel awkward when you do it. That's the whole point of training. That's the whole point of coming to class. So when we're talking about our verbal management, there's basically essentially three things that we're going to learn. So we're going to ask, we're going to tell, we're going to command, or we're going to ask, we're going to tell, we're going to yell, right? Like very simple, all right? And the way that starts is pretty easy, right? So if Dan is somebody that we would consider an unknown contact or an undesired contact, or just sometimes in the LE field, you call this like a field contact or making contacts, right? So Dan starts walking over towards me. Can you hold up right there, bud? Right? That's the first level. Ask him to hold up right there. So I say, he walks over, hey, can you hold up right there, bud? And he stops. Okay, cool. Continue conversation at that distance and at that level, right? Like pretty simple. Hey, can you hold up right there? Hey, what can I help you with? Stop. Hey, what can I help you with, bud? All right, so we go from the ask to the tell, all right, and then we go to the command, all right? So very simplistically on that, it's just that like one, I want to establish physical boundaries, for my own protection, and because I don't know who he is, but also is like I don't have to make every interaction like just screaming or like stay back, get back, right? Because that's not how we interact in daily life, right? Like you spend all day, every day inside of reactionary distance from people that you have no idea who they are. So that's just normal. So we're going to ask, we're going to tell, we're going to command. The exact words that you use is up to you, but I want us to think through, like one, there should be words that come naturally for you. If you're a person who uses certain phrases and things, like use what's natural for you. Don't talk like me. But we also want to make sure that all the words that we use have a specific boundary attached to them. Same thing, Dan comes walking over to me. How can I help you? Well, he didn't stop. Why not? I didn't ask him to stop. I invited him over to talk. Dan comes walking over. What's up, bud? Why didn't you stop? I didn't ask him to stop, right? I invited him over. So thinking about just like subtle differences in words. I think we all know, like instinctually, like, how can I help you? If I say it in that sort of tone and with like kind of a little bit of a, like, that sort of face, it's me confronting, but I didn't ask him to stop. Conversely, like, hey, can you hold up right there, bud? Hey, what can I help you with, right? The difference between something that has a specific boundary, a specific want from me attached to it versus something that is open-ended. Does that make sense? Right? So now when we get from the ask, we get to the tell. All right, so same thing. Dan comes walking over. Can you hold up right there, bud? Hold up. All right. What did I do there?
Brought it up enough.
Voice went up a little bit. Did I scream at him? Did I cuss at him? Did I make it personal? No. I asked him, didn't get anything. I told him, right? So I told him. Now, same thing. Dan comes walking over. Hey, could you hold up right there? Hey, hold up. And he does, right?
Making a guess.
And now, hey, what can I help you with? And you just, somebody who wants a, you need a gas station or whatever, right? Bring your tone back down, right? Hold up right there. Hey, hold up. Hey, what can I help you with, right? So the inflection of my voice controls the interaction. Versus, let's say I have the same interaction. Dan comes walking over. Hey, can you hold up right there, bud? Hold up. Hey, what can I help you with? Right? Like, that's escalatory, right? He didn't listen to the first thing. When I told him to hold up, he did. But now I'm still yelling at him, right? So what's that doing? It's amping up, right? It's escalating. It's keeping the situation high, right? So from a simple standpoint, I'm going to reward his behavior with my behavior, right? When I wanted something, he gave it to me, so I rewarded him with conversational tone. Pretty simple. Does that make sense, like conceptually to people? Is anybody really confused by that? Right? And this is, for me, this is the hardest stuff. Like, I would much rather that, like, if Jeff came in, I would much rather he either stayed 15 feet away or we fought, versus me trying to, like, use my words and, like, manage, like, because it's not that fighting's easy, but at least it's simple. At least you know you're fighting. It's the interim space that's weird. Okay, so what we're going to do with our partners is we're just going to work through the first two steps of that, because that's where most of your interactions are going to be. Like, when's the last time, so Colin, when is the last time that you screamed at the top of your lungs, stop or fucking stop at some person you've never met?
Yes. Oh, someone I haven't met. Well, it was still yesterday. I work construction. I was going to say it was this morning because I got kids, but...
Yeah, right? But, like, you think about your daily life, right? Like, how often or when have you ever, like, screamed at somebody to get away from you or to stop? Not very often, right? Like, most of your interactions are just normal. So we got to keep that in mind. So what we're going to do is, everyone, we're going to get in partners. And all I want you to do is we're going to work through the ask and through the tell. And now, and this is where you being a good training partner, you need to vary up your levels of compliance with that, right? So if I'm paired up with Aaron Maley, right, just stay right there, it's fine. And like I start walking over and he asks me to stop.
Stop.
Oh, hey, sorry, bud. I just, like I'm looking for a gas station, right?
Stop.
Right? Now, what? Did he ask me?
No.
Did he? No, right? He immediately went into, like, right? Shit's awkward, right? So I walk over.
What can I help you with? Stop. Yeah.
It's weird, right?
It is.
What was the first thing he did?
Yes, what?
Didn't tell me to stop. You invited me in, right? I'm a vampire. I can't come in, right? Unless you invite me. So now try this. Hey, could you hold up right there? So when I come walking over.
Hey, can you hold up right there?
Oh, hey, sorry, I didn't mean to roll up on you like that, but I'm kind of new to this part of Omaha, but like I'm trying to find my way back to back to the interstate over there, because I think I'm trying to go to Lincoln.
Stop.
Right? Look how close, like I don't mean any harm, right? But this is where, like, hey, maintain your boundaries, but also as the person talking, vary up what you're doing. You can be a shithead, you can be a good person, but make them work through the verbal stuff. Same thing. I walk over on Aaron here.
Hey, can you hold up right there?
All right, I guess I was just gonna come over and see what you're up to, bud. But, like, you don't want to chat with me?
No. Stop.
Whoa, dude, you're getting why are you yelling at me, man? Like, you don't know me. Like,
I don't know you. I don't want you that close.
why don't you want me that close to you?
I don't know you.
Well, you don't know me yet. You could, right? Like, all right, vary up what you're doing as a partner. Make them work through their verbal controls on that, right? None of these interactions end with you attacking them, end with you nose to nose with him or anything like that, right? So I want to keep this to just the ask and to just the tell, because this is going to overwhelm most of the people in here anyways. And then we'll add the third component once we get some repetitions of that. Is everybody good on that? That makes sense to everybody? All right, make it happen.
Should I change my stance though as you start? Because as soon as you get too close, I'm automatically like.
I mean, and that's the game, is it's like I'm not.
It can be escalatory because there's a conversation. If I'm like, hey, I've escalated this I'm in a fight scene.
Yeah.
But there's also like
Uh-oh, you need a partner?
Yeah.
All right, I got you.
Oh, hey, I just need to like.
Hey, you want to stop right there?
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, can I help you with something?
Oh, yeah, I kind of never been around here, and like I think I'm running low on gas, but I can't seem to find like a gas station anywhere. Like, could you help me with that?
Yeah, I'm not from around here either, but I just found a gas station. Casey's just down the road.
So like if I go like this way, okay, cool.
So.
Hey, could you hold up right there, bud? Hey, could you take a couple steps back, please? Hey, could you take a couple steps back, please? Hey, I'm not gonna chat with you. Hey, stop! Stop! Take a couple steps back. Hey, bro, it's kind of dark out here. I don't know you. You're rolling up on me. Hey, stop! Stop! Back up.
All right, hey, I'll go find somebody else.
All right, hey, appreciate you, Holmes.
Hey, stop.
Right?
This is comfort.
Ready?
But as we Westerners.
Yeah, you want to stop right there? I got kind of a cold. I don't want to give it to you.
Wait, you don't have like, what kind of cold you don't have like fucking AIDS or something? Like what?
I need you to stop
Sorry,
right
I can't-
there. I don't need to get anybody to stop right there, please.
Okay, like dude, you're being a little aggressive. Like
No, I'm not being aggressive. I just don't want to get anybody.
I just like this
I
is
don't need to
like
shut the whole country down because I'm impatient.
man, this is kind of like my neighborhood, and like I've never seen you, but you're just like hanging out over here. Like what's up with that? Like
I can be here too. Is there anything I can help you with?
yeah, I'm trying to like I'm wondering what you're doing out here, bro.
No, I'm just going for a walk, just getting some fresh air. Like I said, I wasn't feeling great, so I appreciate if you stay back. Stop! I warned you
Hey,
a couple times.
easy, dude, easy. Hey, like we can be cool, man. We can be cool. All right, Shit's weird, right? Like
That's why I live away from everybody.
One thing that I am noticing that you're doing is you're telling him something, but you're encroaching on him as you're telling him.
Was I moving forward?
a little bit, yeah. And now some of it is the nature of the training environment, But this stuff is difficult. Like I would much rather just fight you than like have to play like this like verbal game. Like hey Lane, go get X piece of information out of Pat over there. Like verbally, I'd be like, I don't want to. Like,
I'll send you an email. That's a text message.
Hey, you go ahead and jump in with somebody else if you want.
Can you hold up right there? Yeah.
Mommy, out of the convenience store right over
I need to keep my hands up.
Keep your hands up a little bit.
My natural
Yep.
position.
And so like, your body language and your voice don't convey that like you intend to uphold the boundary. And it's like I said, this shit's weird.
Yeah,
It's freaking hard. So let's see it again.
Hey, what can I help you with?
I just need some gas.
Can you hold up
Stop.
right there? Yeah. Hey, stop.
Okay, so what was the first thing you said to him?
What can I help you with?
Right, so you invited him over. So get that out of your lexicon, right? Unless you have to do it for work or whatever. But like within the concept of the personal violence, you got to get rid of that because that's an invitation for them to come over, right? So try it again. So now just say, and you don't have to copy me. Like I am not a linguist at all. So just some form of, can you stop right there? Can you hold up right there? Something like that. So as soon as he comes over,
Hey, can you wait right there? What can I help you with? I was just looking for a restaurant. Hey, stop. What can I help you with?
it's a little better. And also is like, think in terms of like, take some pauses between your words, right? So that you make sure that you get the thing that you want, right? So go ahead and back up a little bit, Tommy. So same thing, he walks over. Hey, can you hold up right there?
Just looking for a restaurant. I think it's right over there.
Hey, take a couple steps back. Hey, I don't know you, right? You just kind of roll up on me. I'd rather have this conversation at this distance. So you're looking for what restaurant?
I think it's an Arby's.
It's an Arby's? Yeah, if you just go out this door, go up the street, take a right, you're going to run into it right there. Okay, you good, bud? All right, thanks. Right, so one, when you ask him to do something, you set a boundary, like give him, like ensure that he complies before you go on to something else. Because if you just keep, if you just keep talking, but he just keeps, it's like, okay, what's the freaking point, right? But also, then the other side is like, again, 99.99% of every interaction have you ever been randomly attacked in the street before? No, which is most people, right? So every interaction that you've ever had in your entire life has been friendly, or at the very least hasn't been like aggressive. It hasn't been with violent intention of some sort, right? So you get to reward him, right, by doing what you want. Hey, could you hold up right there? He holds up. So like now he gets the reward of me being friendly and talking in this tone of voice. When he doesn't, now my voice comes up a little bit and I get more commanding. And then we get into the third one, which is where I basically try to like blow his hearing out by yelling at him really loudly. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sure.
I've had my time.
All right, guys, let's bring it up here.
In the past.
We seem to have reached some sort of herd stopping point where everybody ended at exactly the same time. But does that make sense? Who found that super awkward? Like liar, 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 right? Like yeah, like it is awkward right now. Like guys, like cops have, an advantage in this. Like like I work at a homeless shelter, so guys like us have an advantage because we get a lot of like, unknown, random, idiot field street contacts, and so you get a lot of repetitions doing that. Whereas like most people, like you probably don't, because like when is the last time, like who here has ever actually been like personally like violently attacked when they're like out and about in like their daily business? Is anyone? Well, Aaron has a cool story. He does that. His freaking awesome, right? So basically like what we've essentially established is that like every interaction that you've ever had in your normal life does not include you having to resort to violence at the end of it, right? So you kind of got to keep that in mind, which is that like, don't be a dick and escalate things for no reason. But it also means that like you've spent your entire life at relatively close distances to strangers. It's never gone bad. When was the last time that you were like at a gas station, convenience store, whatever, and you said anything akin to, hey, could you hold up right there? Hey, could you take a couple steps back? When was the last time anybody said anything like that? So, 4 years ago, right? I mean, you've probably done it work related, so that's kind of like different, but like, so non-duty related, when was the last time that you said anything like that to somebody?
Last year, at a gas station. The guy came up to me, I watched him, did my shoulder check, came out and started coming up to me and said, hey, how can I help you? And he's like, oh, I just wanted to see if you tell me the laws, I just wanted to know if I could. I'm good, can you stop up there for me? And he was like, why are you standing like that? And I was like, it's just something, just something I teach for personal boundaries, that's all. And that was it. And after I told him I taught, what I did, he's like, oh, okay. And I left him alone.
Yeah. So we basically got one example, right? And that's kind of a little bit telling, which is that one of the bad things, it means that like, like dudes like, like the homeless guys and the guys who kind of like live and work on the streets, they have way more repetitions of doing this stuff than you do. So that's one of the reasons why it's awkward. What were some of like the fundamental problems that you guys run into with that initially?
Keeping my hands in my pocket.
Hands?
My natural talking pose.
Yep.
So I had to tell myself to do
Yep.
something different.
It's very awkward.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'll practice this in the mirror, especially like if I know I'm getting ready to teach classes, I'll go do reps in the mirror just to kind of refresh, because otherwise like I'll get reps at work, but otherwise, it's also the nature of my job is like if I work at the homeless shelter, I get to do this stuff like for an entire shift, and it's kind of fun because I'll be on, it's like there is a lot of danger potential, but most of the people there are like just completely harmless given the nature of like the lives that they live. But then my usual post is in Exarban at like a major engineering building. So like, it's like, when's the last time you think that I asked, hey, could you take a couple steps back? No. Dude comes in suit and tie. Hey, I'm here to see such and such executive or whatever. Like he gets a, hey, how can I help you? Like I don't, hey, could you hold up right there, sir? How can I help you? Right? Like I know how I can help him because he walked up to the desk that I'm working at, so there's that component. But like that's kind of a thing. Who is struggling with moderating your voice? Right? And like people with kids, like this should be something that if you kind of like break it down and think a little bit, like if you have kids, or it's even very similar to like kind of like training dogs, is like, it's kind of that like, you know, ask and reward sort of thing. So like if your kid comes over and he's like, you know, and he's just like screaming and being like basically a little terrorist, right? So like if you also start screaming at him and everything, is like, maybe that's like the right answer. But if your kid comes over and you establish a hard boundary, like, no, you can't get this until you do this, right? Establish that, and he kind of pouts and he walks off, but he goes and does it. When he comes back, do you stay at that like real stern, or do you bring it down? Do you go back to soft, right? Like you go back to soft, right? You escalated, and then you told them, or you asked for something specific, you got it, so you reward that with the tone of your voice, okay? Now we'll get into the third component, which is the which is the command, or the yell. I use command a lot if I'm talking to like, you know, for LE guys, security guys, or whatever, because that's usually the typical way. But like if I'm talking to like, you know, to Cindy or to Stephanie, it's more like yell for the sake of like establishing the boundary, and also is like getting somebody else around to hear and to help. So the yell is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to yell. It's going to be hopefully something like, you know, 1 or 2 syllables, stop, that you can say very sharp and very loud. And the point of it should be, one, that it's extremely loud, it's extremely like sharp and short, but also is it should be aggressive, right? So if I'm with Aaron here, you don't need to move for any of this, but be like, hey, could you hold up right there? Hold up, stop! Right? Like hit him hard with that, like who jumped a little when I did that, right? Yeah, you feel like, you know, I have a little bit of goosebumps from it. It's like, that's what we're talking about. It's like that level of like, hey, when you have to take it to the command, it's up there, right? Immediately, like you go hard. Now, also, that would be where if you want to add some sort of color to it, you know, add a swear word, add something like that to it, like that's where you take it up to that. You know, if you want to add something like that. Now, also kind of understand that the words that you choose matter. So, is there a difference between fucking stop or stop fucker, right? Are those the same statements? No, right? Like one of them is me, like it is an emphasis on the word stop. The other one is calling him a fucker, right? So it might be accurate, but also is like, it is escalatory, right? So kind of keep that in mind. Is it like, hey, if you're going to add swear words, right? Like, I forget, there's a comedian who's got a joke about it, but it's like, you know, like the swear comes before the thing you want, but if you come, you know, not after, right? Just think of the difference of that. You know, it's like fucking stop versus stop motherfucker or something like that. Does that kind of make sense? Is everybody clear on that? Same basic premise as far as, so let's say I did that, stop! And he stops, right? Do I stay at maximum yell for all the rest of the words that I say? I start to bring him back down. But does that mean I immediately go back down and just be like real soft with him or anything? Like, no, I'm probably more back in the like, in the tell, right? Like, stop! What are you doing? Roll up on me. Hey, take a couple steps back. Take a couple steps back. All right, what are you doing? Why'd you come up on me like that, right? Here, bringing it down. So I am rewarding him with the words, but like, if I thought I had to scream in that man's face to command him to do something, right, we've escalated to a level. Does that make sense to everybody? Is anybody super confused by that? Okay, let's get back with partners. Now I want you to take it through the whole thing, to the ask, to the tell, to the command, all right? Different partners than you had before. And same thing, partner, your job is to make them work, right? Again, none of this ends with violence. None of this ends up with you in physical contact or fighting. That's not the point of it. Your point is to make them have to talk for longer and to work through the things that they want. Does that make sense? Is everybody good on that? Okay, let's make it happen. My voice is a little raspy from that already. I don't yell a lot anymore.
Yeah, I'll give you first.
Lubricate that voice box.
Hands up.
I was going to ask you a question.
Oh yeah, no problem.
You're good. Okay, what are you doing? What do you want?
Hey, so all the words and stuff are correct. Try to be a little more like concise with it, right? So when you yelled at him, that was good. But then when you were like back up, you were like back up, back, like you know what I mean? It's like back up. back up, right? Like hit him with it a little bit, right? Because you got to think about like if this was somebody that you felt the need to like scream in this man's face at the top of your lungs, right? Like you are at the like minimal, like this is animal shit, right? Like bark at him real quick, real sharp. And then if you get him back, so now you get Pat back to here. Okay, now you can start to be a little bit looser with your words, but think in terms of sharp. Hit him with it.
Hey, stop! Okay, thank you. I know, I'll help you out.
When he starts walking in, hey, what's up? Or stop like that. Stop. I said that second one, have a little bit more yell, but have more edge to it. It's just conversation to me. It doesn't stop once. Have a little bit more of an edge to it.
Hold up, stop!
I'll walk you.
Hey, can you hold up right there? What do you need?
Hey, stop!
Hey, can you please stop? Hey, stop! Hey, stop!
You got a little bit more on the last one?
A little bit. It's kind of the same thing. Like you're kind of rewarding all of his bad behavior because you're still trying to converse with him instead of keeping it short, right? So he's walking over. Hey, can you hold up? Hold up, right? Like don't. Hey, can you hold up? What do you need? What do you like? Like it is like he's already figured out. He's like that's prey right there. Like he knows.
Get him to stop first.
Yep.
Yeah, don't ask what he needs. Just get him to fucking stop. Then you can ask questions.
Yep. Stay on task there.
Hey,
Hey, can you hold up right there?
can you hold up right there? Hey, hold up. Hey, stop!
Hey, stop!
What can I help you with?
So also like that was a better rep, but also think about like, back him up or ask him to do something, right? It's like, hey, can you hold up right there? Stop! Hey, could you back up a little bit? Back up a little bit. Back up a little bit. Jesus, dude, you fucking roll up on me like that, man. Like, right? It's like, hey, you take him up here, but like bring him back down and like, so think of it, kind of terms of that. But this shit's fucking weird, right?
It's awful.
Yeah. Like,
Here's the thing too, my job, I'm an electrician, I go into people's houses, so it's the opposite of, like, I go into other people's homes, so I need the nicest.
and that's where like, and this is the thing that sucks is like we're all presumably like decent, normal Americans here, right? Is like he gets to dictate all the bad interactions that happen with you, right? He gets the initiative. He gets to pick when it happens, where it happens, who it happens to. And unfortunately, like we're all like defensive immediately, right? It's like he might have been like if it's somebody who like aside from like road rage or something like that might be kind of like violence of the moment, but if this is an actual like robbery or like a abduction or something like that or whatever, it's like he's picked this spot and he's probably been out there like kind of like deciding what he wants to do for multiple people, and he selected you, which sucks. But it's like we're always on like the wrong end of that like initiative kind of thing. What's up?
So as far as relation to like you're doing the yelling, right? Would you also be like trying to create distance while doing that?
Potentially, absolutely, yeah. Like all those are like components of it. Is like I don't get a ton into the like like distance thing because what I don't want like the problem with like a training environment like this is what every interaction turns into is like, hey, could you hold up right there? Stop. It's like everything just turns like one, you have unlimited space in here to move. But it's also like everything turns into you basically forfeiting your management in order to make it like you're making it all easier because you're always like backing up. Which one, it just you might not physically have the ability to do that, but you are submitting to every single thing regardless of what your words are saying. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're like too defensive.
Yeah, and so think about this in terms of like what we do security-wise, right? So let's say you're at HDR and there's you got to go out to the parking garage because there's some dudes out there breaking bottles and drinking or whatever, and you go out there, you're like, hey, excuse me, hey, you guys need to leave property, right? Like you're not authorized to be here. Can you guys just leave property? And they get out and they start kind of accosting you, and you're like, hey, like if everything is just like you going away, right? But there's nothing wrong with you going out and just handling that verbally. Like that's what we do. They get violent, they get aggressive, there's 3 or 4 of them in the car, now you might be like, okay, now I'll go back inside, I'll call Ellie, have him come in, or if me and Paul are working at the time, you come grab one of us, is like, hey, could you come, like, okay, that's no problem. But it's just like, you don't have to go out there and only go like, every single time, just run away,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you. You're sending back, just
Absolutely. Like if you want
not
to think,
necessarily creating distance.
yeah, I
like
think the
you're
ship
running
works
away,
guys, they
but-
call that like arcing, just like basically circling. So like, yeah, it's like if we're here in this position, it's like, I might just like kind of like change my orientation, a little bit without always surrendering the space. One, so I could kind of like peek around, but also it's just that, like, you kind of know like normal interactions that we have. Like if you and I are having a normal interaction, we're kind of like, we make eye contact and like, and sort of talk and stuff like that, but it's like just because like, you turn and maybe look that way, like I don't always like immediately
By
like,
the time we're done with the conversation, I might be over here where I started.
yeah, and that's totally normal. Whereas like conversely, like if you and I are like having a conversation, but like every single time that you move, it's me like that's like, you're getting freaking, downloading information on that sort of stuff. What's up?
Changing my so I'm like here. I'm like, hey, can you hold up? And I say stop. She keeps stopping. I'm starting to come and drop back into that fighting.
Yeah. All right, hey guys, let's bring it up here.
Too quickly.
I mean, without seeing the exact rep, like, actually, I have a great idea. How about you guys just rep one out for all of us to watch here?
I'll go first. Hey, can you hold up right there? What do you need help with?
Sure, I need to find the hospital.
Yeah, it's right down the street. Hey, hold! Stop! Keep on.
need the hospital.
It's right down the street. You can. Hey, stop!
So, I mean, pretty good. I would say, like, and this is kind of a common theme amongst people, is that, like, one, give them time to comply. Like, don't reward them with conversation if you didn't get the thing that you wanted, right? So the first time, so she kind of walked over, and you were like, hey, hold up right there. How can I help you? Right? That was all, like, one statement, right? So there's no boundary to that. So conversely, same thing. She walks over, hey, could you hold up right there? Hey, what can I help you with? Right? Like, establish like a boundary, give them a chance to like comply or not comply, and then continue, right? So like you're trying to avoid like, like inviting or just, like rewarding their behavior, because much of like the words and the tone of your voice also conveys what's going on. Because what do they say? It's like 60% of all communication is nonverbal. It's your posture, it's the tone of your voice, expression of your face, like all those sort of things. So if I'm like, get away right now, I'm super scared. Please get away. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Get back. Get back. Get back. Get back. Get back. Like none of that. Like you don't believe any of that, right? Because there's no tone of voice. There's no body language, that like goes with that. Like conversely, even if I do the same thing but I just change my body language, get back. Leave me alone. Get back. 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 Right? Did that look completely different than the right? And I didn't raise my voice. Still talking tone. But I kind of changed my posture, right? So just thinking like, like terms of that, which is just the altering of the tone of voice, your body position, posture and stuff, like kind of changes the nature of all those sort of things. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have major questions on that stuff?
So it makes sense to kind of like change your angle, like if I'm coming at him and he's...
Certainly. And this is always like the awkward part of training, is because it's always like 50-50 the fault of him and the fault of you, which is that like, this person who's like being the bad guy always just like escalates, and you're like, okay, it's just like, and I'm not like it's a hard part of the training environment is to get you to kind of like, operate and kind of like, like move around those like, kind of boundaries like a little bit, but like have this interaction, whereas it tends to be that everybody kind of does like the same thing, and they just sort of walk through that. When it's like, okay, if this was actual reality, Aaron would have just punched you in the nose, but it's like, hey, we're trying to tell you to work the verbal and that sort of stuff. So it's like both people have a responsibility to try to extend the interaction as much as possible by like, that. Because like your actions, if you think about how it actually comes up in real life, are more like the types of interactions that you tend to have with like homeless people and drug addicts, which is that like one of the primary things that happen to people who are on substances is that they lose their ability to judge like body language. That's one of the reasons why drunk people talk to you like this close. It's not because every drunk person wants to fight you, but it's because they're drunk, so they have no association for body language. So like stalker might be like giving me the like, hey, I don't want anything to do with this, but like drunk be like, dude, like, were you watching like the Huskers earlier? But it's like all of his body language is like, I want nothing to do with this, right? But who's had those kind of interactions with people, right? Yeah, and it's not because every drunk person wants to attack you. Most of them don't, but it's like they lose all their association for like the obvious, like, like, exactly, personal space, You know, like just your general like body language and all those sort of things. Yeah. What do you have, Cindy?
The one thing I was doing with him is I literally was just approaching. I wasn't saying anything. I was just kind of like, and just kind of encroaching him just a little bit, kind of like. And he was just kind of like, But then he eventually realized and picked up that when I started doing it again, then he instantly was like, whoa, okay, stop right there, please. But yeah, interacting with being a good person to help out, throwing that stuff in like you were saying to them, moving around.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, and it's a tough thing to mimic exactly in the training environment, you know, because, you know, when we don't have like crazy people around and stuff like that, but it's also like I noticed this because we all struggle with it. It's always kind of like, you know, you're in a class that's about combatives, is about self-defense. So there's a component of both people that like kind of feels compelled to basically get to that distance. Where like, if it were real life, I never met Colin, you know, or even like I know Colin, right? Like, even if I know him and like Colin tells me to hold up right there.
Hold up. Give me some space, brother.
All right, yeah, dude, no problem. Like it would never occur to me to like,
Stop.
like continually close down like that space. I'd be like, all right, Colin's having a bad day. That's cool, bro. Like, you know, like whatever. It's like, it's not a big deal, but like, you know, sometimes that's hard to mimic in the training environment. Any other issues with that sort of stuff? Okay, yeah.
I was gonna say the comfortability with distance, especially like sizing wise. Like me and Colin were working on like we're not unused to people kind of being in our bubble and being comfortable with it, and so like he was starting to like give me commands when I was already kind of within punching distance, and I was like, oh no, we need to extend this out. Whereas like someone like Cindy, she's gonna be giving me commands from out here. She's not gonna let me get to here without doing something. Where me and Colin being big dudes are like, okay, person coming close, whatever.
Yeah, and that's, you know, and the other thing too is this goes back to the same thing we were doing when we were like doing the gun handling stuff, is that like sometimes you gotta skip steps, right? Like if I've got Dan over there, you know, and I roll up on him.
Hey, stop!
Right? Like he didn't go into the like, oh, I better go from like, you know, hey, could you hold up right there? He said stop, screamed, and then he got ready to punch me in the face, right? Like, because he made the obvious assessment, which is that like, obviously I don't have to strictly go through this exact checklist because, hey, he's 3 feet away.
Yes.
I better have a plan for this, you know?
He wants to do a bad thing.
Exactly. So just, you know, obviously, you know, kind of like obvious things, you know, as far as that stuff, like Occam's razor, you know, is like usually the simplest answer is the correct answer. Like if Nate is sprinting at me, you know, and he's got his hand up, I'm probably not even going to say anything. I'm just going to go, oh, either move or teep him or, you know, change levels, double leg him. Like I'm not going to go, hold up. Oh, he's right there. It's like, oh, this crazy guy's running at me. I'm like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. So just, yeah, like kind of, you know, sometimes it's, you know, it's a little cliche, but it's like, you know, that's where the fluidity, you know, and kind of the being light on your feet thing kind of comes in with that. Anything else with that, guys? Okay, let's, same thing, we'll get a quick, like, you know, 100-second break here, and then we'll get into some basic cover position and some of our basic grappling. We'll be rocking and rolling here. Yep.